Hello everyone, welcome back to Sunrise Farm. I'm Jim, thank you so much for stopping by. In today's planting video, we're going to be continuing with our fall brassicas. We're in a crisp, cool morning of mid-October down here in Zone 8B, and it's about 49 degrees this morning, hence my little bit of a jacket on this morning. And we're going to be planting today a brassica, but cauliflower. So this is a cauliflower plant. And as you can see, I have mine in starter trays. And as you can see with these, they create quite a nice root ball. Now this one is starting to get a little root wrapped at the bottom. And if you've watched some of my other videos in our fall brassica plantings, you'll know that I had some downtime due to some back injury. And so these plants, I couldn't get the ground prepped fast enough due to that. And so these plants are a little over 7 weeks old, bordering on 8 weeks old. And typically in a grow out tray like this, you don't need any more than 4 to 6 weeks. But I've planted some other stuff already. You can go back and watch some of my last couple of videos or so. I've planted cabbage and collard greens. And those seedlings, the root balls on them, even though some of them are a little wrapped, a lot of them are in really good shape, and I think they'll be just fine. So this cauliflower is an heirloom variety, and it is self-blanching. And what does self-blanching means? It simply means when it gets its cauliflower head, it is supposed to basically wrap and protect itself. That's basically what it means. And so I'm gonna go ahead and take you along and show you how I plant these. I'm going to be planting these much in the same way I plant cabbage. I will probably plant broccoli the same way in another video. And so I use, you can probably see it behind me a little bit, I already have some of the rows prepped, but I use drip tape. So I use drip irrigation, and then I'm going to plant on a double row. But on each side of the row, and you'll see, because when I cover it with a double wheel hoe, it creates too many furrows, and I'll give you a little closer view of that. But when I do it this way, those two little mini furrows are about 11 inches apart. And so they're roughly speaking 5.5 or so inches away from the center of the drip tape. And the drip tape has 1 foot or 12-inch emitter spacing, and that is the little ports where the water comes out. And so when I plant the rows, I'm going to do what's called an offset pattern, or a zigzag pattern, as some also call it. And that is simply being on one side of that drip tape, I'm going to plant 2 foot on center, and then come back on the other side of that drip tape, also planting 2 foot on center, but the opposite 1 foot emitters. So it'll create a zigzag looking pattern when it's done, and we'll show you that. Now, there are many ways to plant cauliflower. There are many types of blanching and non-blanching cauliflower. And if you don't have a blanching type, that simply means you'll probably have to use something like a rubber band or some other form of tie-up to wrap the heads to protect them. But at any rate, we're going to plant one double row, and should give us somewhere in the vicinity of between 44 and 48 plants for my row length. We'll see how it works out. All right, well, let's get started. All right, so as you can see, I have 4 more rows prepped. So one of them, this row here, is going to be for cauliflower. This row here is probably going to be for broccoli. And then I've got a couple of rows that I'm going to be going ahead and transplanting some lettuces in. I've got multiple varieties of lettuces. And so I'm just going to give you a preview of what the cauliflower will look like. So I'll just show you real quick on the cabbage I planted in a previous video. And as you can see, my drip tape is in the center. You can see a little bit of it, the little black in there. And you can see that on that side of the drip tape, it's 2 feet apart. On this side of the drip tape, the plants are 2 feet apart. But they're spaced on opposite sides of that drip tape on the 1-foot emitters. All right, here we are at the head of our row getting ready to start planting. I've taken a few minutes off camera to go ahead and start the drip tape and get that water to start to flow through the emitters. But if you can see, when that double wheel hoe goes through there to cover that drip tape, it creates 2 little mini furrows. So what you can see here is I've gone and started laying the plants at every foot, and then they're going to be zigzagged across the drip tape. So for simple math, however long your rows are, or however many plants you want to plant, I suppose there's another way to look at it, is that even though I am doing this in a zigzag fashion to give the plants a little more room to grow, a little more room to move, I've certainly seen where you could plant these 1 foot on center on the drip tape. That's fine. I see people plant them 2 feet apart and whatever, that's fine too. In this case, they'll be 2 feet apart on each side of this row. The rows themselves, if you're looking at it this way, so the vertical rows this way, will be 1 foot apart basically, and then be 2 foot per plant on center. But from plant to plant, in the zigzag fashion, they'll be approximately 16 inches, just giving them just a little bit more room to work. Now, I haven't laid out the entirety of the row, and the reason, well, let's just walk the row. I've already stuck 1 plant in the ground, just kind of a starter. You can see where the water starts coming through the little emitter. You can almost see like that black dot, that's the emitter. So where that water's coming through the emitter, you can kind of see it back here where it's not covered. Water coming through. And so I've just laid out the plants. I pulled them out of my seed trays. And I use these Prop Tech trays from Haas Tools. And I got to tell you, so far, I absolutely love them. When the plants are mature, 4 to 6 weeks for most grow outs, excluding things like perhaps peppers and tomatoes that you might want to up pot more. And for most everything, you'll be in the same range of grow outs. A simple tug test, if you will allow you to know if that root ball is taking effect. Because when those roots get into the dirt, the seed starting mix that you planted or applied to the seed tray, it'll create a nice root ball. And so it'll grab all of the dirt, bind it together, and you can pull it out. Now, the reason I hadn't done the whole row is because this many plants, and I'll just show you, see, it just pulls right out. But this many plants have double germinated, double sprouted on me. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull some of them apart. Now, I've already done it, but in some cases, if you pull one out, and let's just say one of these is very weak looking, which some will be because not all of them will grow right. If they're very weak looking, I just cut them off and just drop the good one in the ground. I literally just cut it right here at the stem, at the base of the dirt, and then put it in the ground. But in this case, I need probably approximately 15, 20 plants. And I could do that very theory here, but I want to have a couple of spares also in case some of these don't take well, because invariably, when you're planting 40 to 50 plants at a time, invariably some of them won't take well. So I'm going to separate them. All right, so like I said, I already stuck the first one in the ground. Of course, it has no bearing if you're going to do this zigzag pattern. It has no bearing on which side of it you do on the first emitter. You just want to try and make sure that you keep in the pattern and don't mess yourself up. Again, is it really critical you do it this way? No. I'm just You know, there's multiple ways to sow any plant, and so many factors are going to play into it for yourself, including climate and timing and just so many things. But at any rate, so we're going to find the next emitter. We already know it's 1 foot, so 1 foot's approximately right in here. There it is. So I've already got my furrow because of the way the wheel hoe does. So I just make sure I get it in there. Push it down in a little bit just to set it and forget it. And so we'll just keep going down the road doing this on the opposite side. So that one was on this side of the drip tape. That one's on that side. So we'll come back on this side, and I can already see the watermark there, right there. So we'll just stick it right here. Cover it up. And just snug it in there. Right there. So right here, just snug it up. If I get the grass out of the way. When the plants reach this stage, they're reasonably hardy. So you don't have to be ultra gentle with them. All right, here's just a slightly different look for you, a little closer. My emitters right here. Just put the plant in. Press that plant right down in there. So you can see root balls are a little dry out. Now when you go to start planting, I didn't mean for them to be this dry, but you do want them a little dried out, because if you try to pull out wet plants, it can separate. And so my emitters here. So right here's my little, we'll call it mini furrow, even though it's really just the track marks that the plow set on the wheel hoe does. Call it a mini furrow because that's the way it works out. And it works out beautifully for plant spacing. I'll be honest, I don't know if it has anything to do with the way they designed it or not, but it sure does work out nice that way. Alright, so you can see what we've done so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so forth. It actually goes fairly fast and fairly easy doing it this way when all the prep is done. And again, just try to, if you're going to do the zigzag pattern, just try to remember which side of the drip tape you're on. Alright, let me finish these up here, and then I'll show you how I separate those seedlings to plant out the rest of the row. Alright, so we're going to separate a handful of these out here. Well, I'm going to separate them all. Some of them I'll go ahead and up pot. But I'm going to separate out enough to finish my row. As it stands, I don't know, between 10 and 15, I think. I didn't measure the footage, but 10 to 15 feet is what it is, so 10 to 15 plants. At any rate, let me go ahead and show you how I do this. There are multiple ways I've seen it done. I would love to know your comments, so please put them in the comment section. Maybe something different, I don't know, something better, or just other techniques. Now I know when you pull one of these out that you can gently kind of separate them apart. In fact, let's just do it that way one time. So I know that you can go in here. And you can gently try to feel where the roots separate, and try not to do what I just did, which is kind of rip through some of the roots, and you end up with these two pieces. Now, technically speaking, this one ended up with pretty much its whole root ball. This one, its roots got ripped. It still should grow, and we're going to plant them and see. However, the technique I employ quite often, now again, I would say it's probably better if these root balls are a little dried out, because if you do it wet actually might be easier to do if you're going to try to separate them like I just did. But in my opinion, if you're going to try to fully separate the roots, more or less separate it from the dirt, if you will, I think this is a better technique that's done more dry. So I am just going to roll them in my hand. Yes, you are creating a certain amount of plant shock doing this. I'm not denying that. But we have to remember, at least from my perspective, that God created his design to be hardy and healing. And so his things should recover given the proper water and time. And so the more you, and I'm doing it rather gently, but the more you rather gently remove the dirt and just then start slightly pulling apart, now, it may not look a whole lot different than what I just did the first place. However, for me, it seems to bear better results. And I'll just do it one more time, and then I'll go stick these in the ground real quick. So you can see, these roots are intertwined really good. And that's why I say if these two plants are pretty viable, but if one of them was really weak or pitiful looking, I'd just snip it off and wouldn't even worry about it, and then I'd stick the whole thing, the other plant in the ground. Now, my particular seed mix is mixed with a combination of peat and composted manure and perlite. And so the little tiny white things you see all in it is perlite. But by trying to, as best you can, get the dirt out of the situation, it allows for the roots to separate a little easier, in my opinion. Now again, there is no absolute right or wrong way to do this, I don't think. I think whatever tends to work and you like best and you're patient with, and you get good results with the plant still growing out and surviving, then I think you go with what seems best to you in that regard. When I'm trying to pull them apart, I'm not using like force to do it either. I'm just kind of feeling for the plant, so to speak, and see the roots, how it's wanting to unwind, and then just trying to apply gentle pressure. I'm not doing any kind of jerking motion. You can almost see the roots unwind to a degree. And so how do you plant these? Same way. Same exact way. Nothing changes. Just make sure you get them, maybe you want to get them snugged in just a little better. All right. And there you have it. Planted 47 cauliflower plants. And in all honesty, it only took a few minutes. All right. Well, I just want to thank you so much for watching. I hope that maybe helped you out with something. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I really like to know how y'all plant your brassicas. If this was a method that maybe you hadn't seen before but you like. If you had never tried drip tape before and tried to plant double rows of stuff, I'd encourage it. I've loved it so far. As far as the rest of these, I have what, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 total plants left over after I separate a few of them. I didn't plant some of the more stragglier looking ones, if you will. I'm going to put these in up pots and keep them watered and slightly fertilized. I'm going to try to keep these to grow on the off and probable chance that not all of those will take well. I want to have a few to replace the skips, but also, I mean, you never know. I might have a row filler that I can throw a few more in. Just, you know, if you have a row filler, you may as well put something in it, right? And or you know, I might have a friend ask me for a couple of plants or something. Whatever. I'm just going to go ahead and nut pot them because I can. I have the space. I have the material. So we'll do that at a different time later on. Probably this afternoon I'll do it. And that way I can get my seed tray back and we can go again. Next up might be planting some arugula. But at any rate, I just want to thank you so much again for stopping by. Each time y'all watch a video, it just blesses me so much. And I am so thankful for it. And I just want you to know how special you are. So take care and God bless you. Have an amazing day in the Lord.